What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of How to Be a Boss. I am Robert Carden Jr.,
I'm Chrissy Brinson.
And I'm Seth Sheely.
and in this episode, we're going to be talking about how to be an entrepreneur. Let me make sure I got my notes right because I could be wrong. Tips I am starting. I'm starting off real hot today. I done had a Red Bull and it's kicking in,
Woo.
so my mind is in three different places. But today's episode, tips for starting a business and being an entrepreneur. Chrissy, what would you say is like in terms of like starting a business, what is the very first thing that you would say you need?
Take it seriously. So I feel like when you set out to make money doing anything, you need to take it as seriously as possible. So, like, you want to have fun with it, but you want to, as far as the business side of it, you want to make sure you have your together. So, like, knowing that just because you open an LLC doesn't mean that you run a business. You have to produce income. You have to figure out how to make the customer experience good so that you can continue to bring in that income. You want to make sure that you're educated when it comes to business, at least a little bit. Like a lot of it is hands-on experience will give you the most lessons, but you want to know the basics. So like you want to be able to keep up with your books and your finances and your accounting, and you want to hire professionals like have an attorney that you consult with, or have an accountant that you consult with, so that you are doing things the right way from the beginning, because a lot of just careless mistakes from not taking it seriously can cost you time and money. So I would say that would be the first step, is just, educating yourself and breaking everything down so that you can build something that lasts for generations to come.
You were talking about handling your books and making sure those things are in order. Like with AAT, like how did you handle that at the beginning? Because I know it can be a little difficult for like first time business owners.
Yeah. You have to separate out your personal and your business stuff. So your business becomes a whole different entity. So, like, my personal finances and the business finances are two different things. So I treat them as such. Like, you want to have a business checking account, you want to have a business savings account, you want to, um, you know, have an accounting software such as QuickBooks, or something like that, so that you can see exactly how much you're bringing in, exactly how much you're spending, what you're able to write off, how you're trending, like as far as what months are your best months, and how do you make your not so best months better. So all of those things, like keeping up with your finances, just having an overall big picture, allow you to build better processes so that you can obviously make more money, which is what we're in business to do.
Seth, do you have any questions? Because I know you're from the standpoint of you're not like full fledged business yet, but you're still like in the starting processes of it.
Yeah. So Chrissy touched on something that me and her talked about maybe a week or two ago, having our own separate accounts for like personal finances and business finances. That's something I tend to struggle with myself because I keep it all in my personal finances, and I guess that's the main thing that like I would have questions about and want to like figure out how to handle accordingly.
Yeah, like you literally open up a business checking account or a separate account of any sort. You only run business transactions through that account. So any money that you bring in goes directly into that account. Anything that you spend that's business related. So that could be anything from, the gas that you are putting in your vehicle to go to different, locations that you're filming on, or camera equipment, or, props that you're using, or anything, related to you bringing in income. As long as it's a reasonable business expense, the IRS views it as, a business expense. So you're able to write those things off. And all of that should be in a separate account, so that if you ever do get audited, you're able to say, okay, this is my business books, this is my personal stuff. It's not related to what you're looking at. So it basically keeps it separate so that there's never a question as to what you're able to deduct, because a lot of people think their biggest expenses are like my rent or my car payment or stuff like that. Your biggest expense is literally taxes, but you don't realize it because it gets taken off the top most of the time. So as a business owner, you're able to deduct a lot of expenses off of your income so that your income is smaller and you're taxed less off of it. But if everything's all jumbled together, then you're not able to take advantage of those deductions.
So speaking of taxes, do you think like someone in Seth's position, do you think he should file as like an LLC or
Yeah, so like an LLC just basically shields you from liability. That's it. So you don't have to have an LLC to have a business. You can operate as a sole proprietor, which is just like you saying, okay, I have this business and I'm running it as such and it's a separate entity. Um, I would recommend an LLC for anybody who's dealing with something where there could be like a liability issue, because that does, help you not, if you get sued, for instance, like your personal stuff is kind of protected that way. But yeah, I would definitely recommend figuring out how to split it up so that you can take advantage of all of that, because like all of your cell phone that you're using to book clients, like your computer that you're using for editing, your software that you're paying for, all of that stuff can get deducted off of your income. um, and that will, even though you have a W-2 job at the moment, like when you put it all together at the end of the year to file your taxes, all of those expenses, like if you're operating at a loss right now in the beginning, which a lot of people start off with, you're able to kind of get more money back at the end of the year because you've paid in for your taxes with your W-2. So yeah, absolutely. Separate it out. Take it seriously.
okay, so the reason that I was asking is because just thinking about like the setup of, this podcast, the three of us, you're someone that has had an established business for well over a decade at this point.
Oh, don't make me feel old,
I
Robert.
didn't say you were
Yes.
old. I'm just
Yes.
saying
Yes.
it's a well established business.
Mhm.
But
That's what
from
it
that
is.
standpoint, and then from Seth's standpoint of someone that is not fully established business yet, but is in the process of it, and then my standpoint of being more of the branding side, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I just felt like information like that is important to know for the both of us.
absolutely.
I will say that I think it's important, no matter what business that you're in, to have a passion for what you do
Yeah.
because it's something that you're going to be doing almost nonstop, I guess you could say. Um, but what do you do in those moments when it's not fun anymore?
Okay. So first and foremost, being a business owner is way different from having a job. And I think a lot of people, like, they find something that they enjoy doing in a job, and they're like, oh, I just want to go do my own thing so that I can make all of the money. And little do they know that is not how it works, right? So, like, in the beginning, I was a sales rep and I made commission. And, when you make commission, you're making a percentage of what you're producing. So, I've seen a lot of people in our industry who were in that same boat, and they're like, oh, I can make 100% of this if I just go do my own thing. Well, like when you open a business, you have more to worry about than just that one job you were doing.
Mhm.
Like you become the accounting office, the HR department, the advertising. Like you're doing all the things at that point. And so you're not able to focus 100% of your brain power on that one task you were doing to bring in income anymore. So like you have to be able to work with all these moving parts. Um, and that I feel like in order to do that successfully, you have to wrap your head around the idea that business itself is fun for you,
Mhm.
not just the job you were doing. So I think for me, like I enjoy sharing the opportunity to make life changing money with the sales team, and that was really my motivator. Like I wanted to be able to show other people how to do that, and in turn I make money off of that as well. So for me, it was like I enjoy messing with the moving parts. Like I love being a sales rep. I enjoy the act of selling. I was really good at it, so it was like that was fun for me. But once I figured out my passion for business itself, I was able to combine the two things. So when it's not fun, because there are tasks that I
Mhm.
hate doing, okay, like there really are, like payroll, for instance, not a fun day for me. I think the trick there is to figure out how to make it as painless as possible.
Mhm.
So over the years, I've just looked at like what takes the most time and how do I automate that so that I don't have to spend my time or brain power on that task anymore. So that really like getting rid of all of the fluff and figuring out how to make technology work for you, I guess that's a big one. And just sucking it up and doing it. Like if there's a task you don't want to do that task first
Mhm.
and get it out of the way so you can move on and end your day with something that you enjoy.
So going off of that, or kind of like answering your question, for me personally, the times where I won't say I didn't find it fun, but kind of got unmotivated is like maybe when I've been underbooked or overbooked and like mentally drained from being overbooked.
Mhm.
But kind of going into what Chrissy said, like understanding the business side of it, you gotta enjoy the business side of it. That's
Mhm.
where in production, 20% of it is actually like photography, videography, and the other 80% is actually business, marketing, putting yourself out there, and that's where like it comes into play. Like I've been underbooked and like unmotivated, seeing other people get booked more than me, and not feeling like that person or people are as good as me, but their marketing is better.
Yeah.
So just you got to understand the business side of stuff, and yeah.
Yeah. I think if you have a good product or service, a lot of times you're like, but the product or service is superior and everybody should know that. And like, you have to prove that because, like, everybody in the marketplace, if they don't know who you are, if they've never experienced it, how do they know?
Mhm.
Like, but they don't know. So I think part of growing like that is not comparing yourself to other people, but figuring out what works for you. And that was something that I struggled with in the beginning as well. Like just comparing yourself. Grant Cardone says you should not compete, you should dominate. And
Mhm.
that really resonated with me because like in the beginning it was about competition, about beating out the other company or like cutting their prices to get the deal. And like once I looked at the big picture, like first off, no one deal makes or breaks you, and I don't have to lower my standards or my prices to get on their level. Like
Mhm.
the client should get on my level. The client should realize why our service is more valuable and they should realize why they should do business with us. And it's my job to tell them that. So once that became the message, instead of like, we can beat out anybody's price, like that's where the money comes from. It's like once you prove time and time again and just stay the course and build a reputation, you'll have business coming to you. You don't have to necessarily go out and get it anymore.
Yeah, when Robert and I went to the marketing conference, I feel like that's something they touched on a lot. It's like helping your clients understand why they should come to you
Hmm.
and not your competition, I guess.
Yeah.
Um yeah.
That
Yeah, I don't.
conference was something else. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Like I don't. I mean, over the years, I've just other competition comes and goes. And just because somebody's doing good at the moment doesn't, like, if I'm focused on them, I'm not focused on winning. You know what I mean? Like that the saying, we have a shirt.
Mhm.
Um, losers focus on winners while winners focus on winning, or however it goes. Like you have to focus on what it is that you're doing and improving yourself and making sure your customers are happy. And a lot of times that comes from empathy, like putting yourself in their shoes and saying, how do we make this better for the client? Because when the client's happy, they come back, but they also tell their friends, and then you get more clients and so on and so forth.
So it's more or less like acknowledging your competition, seeing, that they're there, recognizing them, but not beating them be your sole focus. Like
Yeah.
doing the best that you can and let your work do what it needs to do in regards to them.
Yeah. It's also about playing the long game too.
Mm-hmm.
So like in business, you're not like if you go to a job, you're working for today. And you're trying to accomplish your task for today or this week and you're getting paid for that and then you put that on repeat. And how you perform each week gives you a paycheck for that week. But like having a business is really long term. Like you have to be thinking about, okay, how am I going to make what I'm doing right now make me money for years to come? So it's about building something, and that doesn't happen overnight. So the results that you're getting right now, while they're important, and you want to work with those results to change your course in the future, like you have to be looking at the future. So like, how is what I'm doing right now building something that's going to be great a year from now or 5 years from now? And when you stop competing and you start looking at that and like where you're headed, then you can build something big. You're not just constantly scrapping. And in the beginning, that's what it feels like. It feels like you're constantly scrapping every time that you book a client. Like it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're putting all this weight into this one job, but at the end of the day, it's just one job. Like you have to be able to duplicate that time and time again to build something bigger.
So this was a question that popped in my head earlier, and I just kind of want to know your thoughts about it.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is an influencer now on social media.
Yeah.
Everyone has, everyone is selling merch now.
Right.
Even we
T-shirts
at
and
AAT
stuff.
sell merch.
Right.
But do
We were
you?
giving it away.
Is it what?
Like, I don't, that wouldn't be
I don't
income for
think
us. Like we just,
I don't think we've ever sold.
I mean, I've sold a couple shirts to like friends and stuff, but like, I mean, they're at cost.
Yeah.
Like we're not in it to. I mean, maybe we should. Maybe we should have an AAT merch store. But yeah,
In the future, we'll set that up.
right.
But do you
A2 merch coming soon.
do you think like there's a difference, or like people should be able to recognize the difference between like a hobby, what you do for a hobby, and what you could do as like an established business? And I know that that's a gray area because there's folks that do hobbies and like sell stuff on Etsy and they build off of that. But
Right.
do you think that there is a difference between the two?
Yes. Yeah, and the IRS does too. So, like, in order to say you have a business and be able to take advantage of the tax code related to a business, you have to be bringing in income. You know what I mean? Not just play money, not just, you can't say, okay, I'm going to sell this product for $5 and then go right off, 10 grand worth of stuff. Like you have to take it seriously. So yeah, I think that a lot of hobbies start off as hobbies and then you figure out how to monetize them. And then but you have to make that decision somewhere along the line. So yeah, everybody does want to be an influencer now. And like that's cute, right? But how do you monetize it? And I think that's what you have to like if that's the end goal, if the end goal is to have a legit business, you have to have a game plan somewhere along the way. You can't just, create content for TikTok and then all of a sudden one day you wake up and you're an influencer and you're making money off of it. Like you have to know how to get there. You have to come up with some sort of goal. Yeah, I mean, there's a million ways to make money. So my oldest kid last night, she asked me while we were driving down the road. We have random conversations. And I'm real open with her about the way the world works because I feel like our school system sets people up to be workers. And that's what it was built around, and that's what we're still doing. But at this point, there's so much opportunity to make money and capitalize on different things. Like, I think the kids kind of miss the boat with that. As far as being taught, they have to figure it out themselves. She knows a lot about business at this point just from our conversations. And she just asked me, like, hey, is college a requirement? Like, do I have to go to college after I finish high school? And I told her no. Like, You don't have to go to college. If you want to have a job where you have to have a degree to do that. So if you want to be a doctor, yes, absolutely, you have to go to college.
Please go to college.
Yeah, please go to college. Don't just call yourself a doctor. Please don't be an influencer doctor. If you are going to be a lawyer, you need to go to college. But like, if you have something that you want to do that you can monetize, that you enjoy doing, and you can build it so that you are able to take care of yourself, take care of your family financially, have freedom to do what it is that you want to do in life, like go for that. Because that's what owning a business is about. It's about like not just saying, hey, I have a business because I make a couple bucks every day, but like being able to sustain your lifestyle, whatever that lifestyle looks like for you. And then that gives you freedom to go do the fun stuff that you want to do.
See, I'm glad you brought that up because, like, personally for me, it came in handy because back in high school, I did not know how to use a camera at all. I didn't know how to edit, didn't know how to do any of that. I remember I got injured and during like football, like my sophomore or junior year. I don't know how because I was always on the sideline, but I still got hurt.
Did you trip on the way to the field?
I don't know how I got
Coming out
hurt.
the locker room and you just tumble.
So they had me filming and like using the end zone camera. Didn't know how to use it, but I did it anyway.
Yeah.
Got to college, and like my sophomore year, got a camera, figured out how to use it, and so college it can come in handy, but it's not necessary.
So let's be honest, okay? Learning how to use a camera, could you have done that with a YouTube video or two?
Probably so.
Right? Like,
yeah.
could you have skipped all the bullshit hours that you've spent learning things that you'll never use again, or completing like long projects that you hated the whole entire time, and all the money that you or your parents have spent on college? Could you have skipped all of that and learned how to work a camera and off of YouTube? You know what I mean?
Probably could have, but in my case, I wasn't trying to learn how to use a camera. I wanted to be a sportscaster, and then I realized I don't like being in front of the camera. I like being behind the camera.
Okay.
And that's how it transpired.
So it was an experience.
It's more so about the experience and the connections you make.
Yeah.
And not so much about what you learn. But with that being said, how would you say that plays into being an entrepreneur? Like those
college?
Yeah,
it
those
doesn't.
not college, but the experience and the connections.
Okay. You can do that in a bar.
Yeah.
You can do that at a restaurant. You can do that at conferences. You can do that at the mall. You can do that on Facebook. Like, they're building connections with people. You don't have to pay for an experience to do that. So you can network. You will network more, actually. So, like, for instance, in your case with photography, your college friends are not doing family portraits on the weekend. You know what I mean? Like, they're not asking you to go take pictures of them and their family. Like, they're out partying. Like, those connections that you're making, while they will help you maybe later down the road if you keep in touch with those people, like, the money that you're looking to bring in is not on the college campus. Like, the money that you're looking to bring in are from people who are out in the marketplace making money so that they can go spend it.
And see, personally with my business, I've made more connections through like social media than I have with college.
Right.
I know a few people through college and I'm cool with.
Yeah.
But I don't work with them as often as I would someone I've met through social media.
Yeah.
So
I mean, those connections that you're making, those are friends. And those, like, that's a personal connection that you can take advantage of, and those are important. But as far as like business related, you are going to have to look further than that. And I think that people, they have a lot of college friends that they're connected with that will help you later on down the road, or people that are in your field that you can connect with to go make money But yes, I'm sure that there's a lot of other hungry college kids, but most college kids are in the same predicament that you found yourself in, which is you go to work during the week, you hang out on the weekends and have a good time, and make a little extra side money. Like you're living in the dorm, they're doing the same thing. So if you're not willing to drop the money that you're wanting to get from them, like they're not going to do it either. So
Yeah.
I think that college is definitely an experience. College is definitely a way to figure your shit out. I did college like business classes for just a quick minute, like a couple semesters, and then I quit it because I learned more. Like at that point, I already had a business, and I learned more about business from going through the action of having a business than the class. Like I was using stuff that I had already done for projects and stuff like for college, and that was so stupid to me. Like,
Yeah.
why am I paying for this when I can just go get the experience that you're telling me about and be making money at the same time? So I think as far as, owning a business, you do not need a business degree to have a business.
Bro, I feel like this could be a whole new, a whole new different
Yeah.
episode about like
Oh, yeah,
college.
we can make this into a whole nother episode of Is College Necessary?
Yeah.
But just to like sum up this episode, what would you say are like some of the main points that you want people to understand and grasp?
If you enjoy doing something, if you can figure out how to monetize it, and you can take it seriously and stick to it long term, then go be a business owner. If you have something that you're good at and you do not want to spend your evenings and your weekends and all of your free time for years and years pouring your heart and soul into something that is not you're not even getting paid for at the moment, get a job. Like I think that there are a ton of people who get into business and they immediately regret it because they don't realize what it is they're taking on. So I think you need to figure out what you want out of life before you go decide to be a business owner. And I think that you have to be able to make your business match your lifestyle. So if you want freedom, you can't. You should hire other people to do stuff for you, and you should do that early on so that you don't take up all your time doing it. So I think it's just about like knowing that you set your own rules when you have a business, and it can be whatever you want it to be, but you have to figure out what you want it to be first and then just go after it, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Seth, what's your takeaway from this episode?
So my takeaway, we talked a little bit about getting unmotivated. You gotta push through that. It's not gonna be easy when you first start. You gotta push through it. You gotta love the business side. You gotta figure out the business side. And like Chrissy just said, if you don't wanna do all that, find people that'll help you do it. Do it for you. So
Yes. And pay them accordingly.
Yes.
Before we leave, I would just like to say that if you're going into business, it's not just about you. Like if you hire employees, if you have other people depending on you to bring in income for their families, like you have to treat them accordingly. So like if you are being cheap with your pay for other people, then they're not going to stick around. So if you want people to do stuff for you, you have to compensate them accordingly and make them happy, so that they want to go to work for you and build your dream and what you're trying to do.
We're going to be talking about people sticking around in the upcoming episode. I'm looking forward to that one. But my takeaway from this episode is: listen, if you print quotes on a T-shirt, that is not a clothing line. Do not
Not
call
a
it
clothing
that.
line.
man, Robert, I feel like you're throwing shots at someone.
No,
Yeah.
no.
He's definitely got. You definitely have a friend on Facebook. You want to hear this?
Yeah.
or
No, I don't
something.
think I have any friends that do that. I do have friends that sell clothes online.
Yeah.
Like they legit make like tutus and stuff for kids. So
Yeah.
that's an established business to me.
Absolutely. It's
But
creative.
yeah, but printing quotes on a T-shirt, that's
gonna put-
not
With
a
your
clothing
cricket.
line.
I'm gonna put a quote on a T-shirt.
But with that being said, AAT T-shirts are on sale. Just email us at sales@aat.tv.
Yeah. We'll start posting them on social media.
Don't we have like a cheetah print T-shirt? or something.
we can do whatever. We can
Yeah,
do whatever.
we're-
On a guild t-shirt. Comfort colors and stuff. Not
Yeah.
a clothing line. Just merch.
Anyway,
Well, you know what? We
yeah.
need t-shirts for the content cave. Just us two. We need t-shirts.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, a content cave.
Listen,
specific
none of our
t-shirt.
quotes can be put on a t-shirt.
No,
I
it
don't
doesn't
think.
even have to be a.
Sidetracked.
Yes.
No, I'm saying.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. Then we're gonna talk about it. We need a content.
Not
cave
an on-air
t-shirt.
conversation.
Seth is always sidetracked. But anyway, thank you guys
Wow.
so much for listening. Be sure to tune in next week. Tune in. That sounds like such an old-timey saying to me. But anyway, check us out next week. We'll be wherever you got this podcast. I can't talk today.
It's that Red
We'll be
Bull.
ever.
It is.
We'll,
It
we'll,
is the
We'll
Red
be
Bull.
wherever you can listen. to the
Wherever you're
podcast.
listening now, we'll be there next week. But anyway, I'm Robert Carton Jr.
I'm Chrissy Brinson.
And I'm Seth Sheely.
And we're wrapping this up because this quickly going off the rails.